Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, sorry about that. For some reason my headset isn't allowing me to hear you, but I am told that you can hear me. So that is wonderful. Excellent. All right. Well, I just want to extend a warm welcome to everyone. We have a very, very good turnout today for today's webinar, and it is wonderful that you are taking a little bit of time to spend with me. Sorry about that. I'm just a little perplexed why my headset is not working, but technology is wonderful, huh? So anyway, today we are going to be talking about ransomware. We here at Manage Engine feel the pain just like everyone else does with regard to ransomware, and we want to prevent it. We want to make sure that everyone is prepared for it, and we want to give you as many different tools as possible to help you with those things. So that's what today is about. I think we have some good information that at least you can take away and really contemplate and test out in your environment. Some logistics for today's webinar. This is being recorded, so we will be sending you a link in the next day or two with regard to a link to the recording, so that you can either review it again or you can share it with someone else. Also, there is a group of people behind me, behind the scenes, which are not talking, which are helping greatly by answering your questions. So if you do have any questions as we go along, please use your GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side and write your question, and you'll be answered in line as we go through the information. One more bit of kind of housekeeping is information about me. For those of you that don't know who I am the technical evangelist for the AD Solutions team here at Manage Engine. And what that means is I get the opportunity to go around the world talking with administrators, talking with organizations, trying to help them better understand specifically Active Directory, group policy, and security of their Windows environment. Of course, ransomware is more generic than that, but most of the time, ransomware is going right after Microsoft servers and technologies to encrypt that data. So it's still part of the Windows suite, in my opinion. I am also an Active Directory MVP. I'm actually a Enterprise Mobility MVP, but I still consider myself to be an AD MVP. I was a Group Policy MVP for about 9 years, and I've been an MVP for about 15. Really what that means to you is you have a direct tie into Microsoft. I work really closely with many different people that work at Microsoft. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about anything that you are dealing with Microsoft, I can actually take that email that you send me and send it directly into the heart of Microsoft, giving you answers. So please take advantage of that. Also, with regard to Microsoft, next week is Ignite. I think Monday at noon starts the trade show, the floor. So please, if you're going to be in Orlando next week, please come by to our booth, say hello. We'll be giving away some drones. We give really cool t-shirts. We just have some really cool things to give away, and not to mention, I'd love to shake your hand and meet you. And if you do have any problems with Active Directory, I'd love to try to help you with that. I also want to point you to some resources. We have some online resources which are absolutely free to you, which I think are actually very good resources. The first resource I want to point you to is our blog. If you go to our main landing page, manageengine.com, hover over support, you can go to our blog. And our blog is geared towards you. And the blog is really talking about a variety of different things: provisioning users, securing users, groups. Here's one on backup. We have some on workflow, delegation. We just have a variety of different blogs that we basically try to help you out with regard to anything Active Directory. Another site that we have available to you is if you hover over products on our main landing page and go to security hardening for Active Directory, I can honestly say you will not find this targeted breadth of information in one page anywhere else on the internet, not even Microsoft's web page. So if you come to the security hardening site and then you go down to the bottom, you will see all of these areas of security. And what we've done is we put together for you blogs under each of those categories, helping you take what you have today and actually secure it. So please take advantage of some of those resources that we have available to you. Finally, I will point you to our 2017 World Tour. We have gone already to about 12 to 14 countries, and we'll be continuing with another 10 to 12 countries in the next couple of weeks. Actually, over the next 6 or 7 weeks, we will actually be in the United States in early October. So if you live in LA, we'll actually be in downtown LA. If you live in Chicago, we will be in both of those cities. So please ping me, ping the 80 Solutions team, the events team, and we'd be more than happy to send you a link on how you can register for those events. I will also be speaking at Info Security in Boston in between those cities. So if you're in the U.S., you have plenty of opportunity to come and see us. Also, we'll be heading over to Sweden, Poland, Israel, Italy, Copenhagen, some really great places, and we'll be having seminars in those locations as well. So please, if you're in any of these areas, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to see you. Please come in and enjoy these events. They're very, very targeted events, really educational, and I've never heard anyone walk away saying that was a waste of time. So they're really good events that we've had. This is our 3rd year, so we find them very successful for those that are coming. All right, let's jump into the material. What I want to do is I want to kind of go over ransomware at kind of different levels, because I know that some of you are very in tune with ransomware, so I'm going to go over some basics and it'll be review for you, but I also want to go over some things that are a little bit more in depth on what we can do, because at the end of this webinar, if nothing else, I want you as the administrator to know that you have options available to you. That's my goal here, okay? So let's talk about ransomware basics. The basics of ransomware is the idea that someone broke into our network, they found files, and they encrypted them. And then they gave us some type of a communication to say, ha, we have your stuff, and you must pay us in order to get your stuff back. And that's some pretty malicious things that are going on. So what are some basics? Well, let's talk about how ransomware gets in your environment. Everyone on this webinar knows ransomware gets in our environments because people, usually end users, but people, do things on their computer they shouldn't be doing. They click on links. They click on graphics. They go to websites they shouldn't go to. They get emails and they click on things in the email they shouldn't click on. So we're infected by Trojans, right? Someone clicks on a file. They shouldn't click on the file, but we do. And as soon as they click on that file, they're infected. Now, as far as this malware, ransomware goes, most malware and ransomware requires some type of local privilege in order to do things, okay? So one of the things that we can do is we can strip away privileges from the end users, helping reduce the effectiveness of ransomware, okay? So if you have your users running as local administrators, I would encourage you to go find some software to eliminate that. There's software that's out there. It's been out there a long time, so go do a little research and lock that down. But Trojans aren't the only way to get infected. Now, the most recent ransomwares, actually, if you look at WannaCry and Petya, they were actually pushed out because of an OS weakness and an unpatched security hole. So now we're talking about some things that are going on that we could have stopped, but we didn't stop because we didn't patch our machines. So soon I'm going to get to a list which is related to how we can help stop and reduce ransomware. Obviously, 2 of them are going to be educate your users, and the other one is patch your machines. That's just basic, okay? Everyone should know that. But if everyone did that, we really probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now, okay? Now, the first known ransomware, this is a little bit of what I call Jeopardy knowledge, was in 1989. It was the AIDS Trojan. It was a miserable failure, and actually what they asked for was $189 US. It really was the the beginning of what is known as ransomware. I thought that was a pretty interesting little tidbit of information there. Now, most recently, ransomware is CryptoLocker, WannaCry, which of course everyone loves to make fun of Cry or Wanna or something related to that, and Petya. So these are the things that are prevalent, right? I often, in other discussions around Windows security, talk about passwords and password cracking. And many people say, password cracking, that's not relative. Well, it is. And ransomware is relative. And ransomware is really mean. It's malicious stuff. Okay? As I said before, people are breaking into what you own, and they are taking advantage of your stuff and then saying, you need to pay me for that information. Now, if we look at some trends of ransomware, ransomware is usually in some kind of a downloader. So people are downloading the ransomware from a click or something like that. There was actually a lull in between 2016 and 2017, but now it's spiked back up. This is according to Microsoft and some of the documents that I went through over the last couple of months with them. So this is an interesting little trend of ransomware downloaders and downloading that ransomware. Now, with regard to who's being attacked, well, primarily it's the United States, and then it's over in Russia and Europe. So distribution of ransomware basically is around the world, but there are certain places, of course, the United States, which has been hitting the hardest, okay? Now, with regard to ransomware, once you get it, and once it's going to start doing malicious things to your files, it's going to encrypt. Now, just like any other technology, malicious technology, they can change it to whatever they want. There's an infinite number of extensions. But now that we know the extensions at this time, what we can do is we can focus on them. Now, at this time, these are the known extensions. There may be some others that are, off the wall or aren't that popular, but these are the primary extensions that you're going to get to your encrypted files. So what we want to do is we want to leverage these extensions, looking for them. Now, one of the things that we're going to notice, and I'm going to say this many times, is ransomware, like any other malware, is going to have different versions. It's going to have different strains of the malware, of the ransomware. So the problem that we have is, yes, we can install applications, we can run queries and checks, we can have virus protection, but the reality is we could actually, right now, all of us have ransomware on our computers that hasn't actually been unleashed yet, and there's no way to check for it because we don't know. We don't know what we're looking for. So this is a very difficult thing. So whatever we can leverage in terms of knowns, we should leverage in terms of knowns. Now, what are the basic steps to help protect against ransomware? Okay, at the top of the list, back up your files. Back up your files. Back up your files. I know that sounds ridiculous, but you'll be amazed at the people that I meet. You probably meet them too, that say, oh, I got hit and I didn't have a backup. Come on. We have to have backups. It's the year 2017, for heaven's sake. It's almost 2018. Backup, backup, backup. Now, you can also go out and look at known bad addresses. And these IP addresses, you can just shut down at your firewall. Go in and configure them. That way, those IP addresses aren't going to come through. Now, can someone change the IP address? Of course they can. But again, what I want to leverage is the known. If we can leverage the known, we're much better off. Okay? Logically separate your networks. Now, this is just really, I look at this as the concept of don't put all of your eggs in one basket. We need to logically separate our networks, right? So we can have certain aspects, and you can logically separate them in any way that you want. You can do it department-based, you can do it responsibility-based, like your DC's on one place, some of your file servers here, your databases there, your clients here. You can certainly logically separate your networks, and what that's going to do is help diminish the effectiveness of the ransomware, because many of these ransomwares not only are affecting the computer that they come into and what they access, they're actually crawling around. So they're actually now becoming a worm. And that's part of the problem that we have, is we have ransomware combined with worms, and now they're spreading. So now we have a totally different issue that we have to deal with. I know the next bullet is something we don't want to deal with, patching our machines. Ever since I got into computers, I won't say the year because that will tell my age, but we've had to deal with patching. And for those of you that are younger, really you have to understand that patching has been an historical issue. I remember years and years and years ago, specifically there was a fix to DHCP years and years and years and years ago. And so we rolled it out and it completely shut down our network. These are types of things that used to go on all the time, and it used to be entire networks that were affected, not just individual computers or servers. So I understand that patching is something we have to test, but believe it or not, Microsoft takes a lot of time to really try to test in different environments these critical security patches before they push them out. And these critical security patches are exactly what these attackers are taking advantage of. So create some form of testing and integration of these patches as soon as possible in your environments. Because if you can actually patch quicker, we can reduce the effectiveness of this malware, okay? Also at your email servers, run filters. Run filters on known things, right? Contents, attachments, certain signatures. Look for these things. Create rules in your email servers so that you are trying to remove these types of malicious code, these applications that are coming in our environments. I understand that we need normal work to be fluid, but sometimes we need to take extra precautions so that we're protecting things. And maybe it's a 2 or 3 step process to get something through, but we need to have these things in place. Educate your users. Come up with creative ways to get your users involved. If you just try to scare your user, the user just doesn't want to do anything anymore. Try to get those users involved. Try to get the users to actually communicate. Try to get the users to have some kind of a posting, and maybe they're elevating certain things that they see. Because a lot of times what users just want to do is they want to come to work, they want to get their work done, and they want to leave. And they want to do that in the most efficient way, which is great, but efficiency, they may be missing some things that may help you as an organization, as an administrator, see things that are coming through. As I already mentioned, implement least privilege, okay? Now, when I say implement least privilege, I'm not only talking about your endpoints, I'm also talking about you administrators. We need to have a least privilege environment. Now, I think it was last week or the last webinar, the last one of the two, we actually had a conversation about privileged access in Active Directory and securing that. Take those things, try to implement those things. Make sure you know who has membership in groups. Make sure you know who has access to files and folders, right? I've been dealing a lot with GDPR, and GDPR is all about files and folders. Ransomware is going to be a big problem for Europe with regard to meeting GDPR because of the issues that they're going to be dealing with. And many of these attackers are going to want to go in and cause havoc as soon as GDPR is implemented next May. We here in the US, well, we've been having to deal with SOX and HIPAA and PCI and you name whatever compliance regulation for years. So what we're trying to deal with now is just the overall concepts of ransomware and malware. Now, another kind of cool idea is we can actually use application whitelisting. So Microsoft has built-in capabilities of this, as well as you can get third-party tools. But I think this is good even in combination with that least privilege approach. So what we want is we want to have the least privilege for the endpoint, as well as they can't install whatever they want. So this is going to help us reduce the effectiveness of this ransomware. And again, another bullet point is back up your files. The only true way to recover from ransomware is to restore from backup. All right, how can you set up monitoring to recognize ransomware? Okay, because this is a big hurdle. People understand, okay, we have these files, but what am I going to do? Well, you're going to set up monitoring of the files which are being encrypted. Okay. Now, ransomware, because of its behavior, this is another known point, isn't going to just encrypt a file or two. It's going to encrypt thousands of files. So what we're looking for are thresholds. Okay. We don't want too many false positives. We want to have a more true view of when we're actually under attack. Now, in a Windows environment, we're going to set up auditing using group policy. So let's jump into my Windows environment here. Let's go into group policy, and let me show you how do you do this. Now, of course, this is the GPMC. The GPMC is going to configure group policy in your domain for your domain controllers and the rest of your machines. This is a GPO set at the domain level, so this affects every single computer. And I can come down here and I can set up auditing. Now, auditing is part of your security settings and your local policies. So you'll want to come in here and you want to set up auditing. Now, the one that you need to set up for tracking files and their behavior is actually called object access. All right? So this object access is the most important one here in auditing. Now, once you've set this up, you then need to go out to your file system, right? So let's say that I go to, I don't know, let's just pick a folder, right? We're concerned about corp data. And then what we want to do is we want to come in here and we want to set up security. This is our ACL, but we also want to set up what's called the SACL, or auditing. And you'll want to make sure that you set this up. You'll see that I have some of it set up here. So these two things match one another. The auditing and policy triggers the light to say, hey, I can actually track. This actually configures what we want to track based on the critical files in our environment. So that should be an indication to you. You can't go and track everything. You only have to track those critical things. Now, according to all the research I've done, all the reading that I've done with regard to ransomware, they typically try to target certain file types. They want impact, right? So they're not going to typically go out and encrypt your pictures. That's not really production. They want to encrypt your Excel spreadsheets, your databases, your Word files, your Oracle databases. They want to encrypt things which are production, because that is going to be where they get the main meat. Now, if we do group policy and we do the SACL at your file and folder level, the result is actually going to show up in your event viewer. Okay? So in your event viewer under your security log is where the results show up. So if someone tries to access the file system, and you'll see here, it shows up. This is what we want. This is the benefit. The negative is, well, gosh, what do we do here? We don't have any reporting that's in here. So we want to set this up, but it's not always the best situation. So this is a way to go and set it up, but sometimes you have to take other measures, which is where we came up with FileAudit Plus. Because FileAudit Plus actually is an agent-based solution, which is going to give us real-time information, alerts on files that are being controlled and maybe encrypted, okay? So what we did is we actually have a couple of different solutions. One is not real-time, which I don't think is very good for ransomware, because the whole idea of ransomware is you want to shut it down as soon as possible. FileAudit Plus is that real time, which I'm going to show you live in just a minute how this works, giving us the ability to monitor, report, alert, and take actions. Okay? Now, we want to make sure that we find the most important files in our environment. Microsoft files, database files. We just went through that list. Monitor your emails and your email attachment. Okay? This is going to help, hopefully, negate the ransomware forever getting in our environment. Restrict applications to only known and needed applications. That way someone can't install something on a PC. They can't install something on a server. This is that whitelisting thing that I was talking about, okay? And then we need to keep track of things. We need to be on boards and look at blog posts and look at different things from Microsoft and other companies to make sure that we know things that are coming out with regard to ransomware, all right? Now, with regard to this whole idea of ransomware, one of the things that we want to do is we want to take actions, right? We want to take actions if we notice that ransomware is coming into our system. What do we want to do? Well, we want to cut off communications. We want to shut down that computer. We want to do things that are going to negate that computer that's infected from communicating with other machines. This is the whole worm concept, right? I mean, if we look at it from a human behavior, we quarantine people. If someone has an infection, or if they're infected with something that no one else has, we want to quarantine them so that no one else gets that. It's the same type of idea. That's what I'm saying. Cut off network communications, shut down that computer. Let's get that computer into an isolated environment and deal with it then, and keep everything else running. So we want to reduce the overall environment, okay? Now, when we start looking at this, we want to tie all of this together, okay? So that's what I'm going to do for you now. Now, let me show you what I have here in my environment. Now, in my environment, I have a tool called FileAudit Plus, okay? Now, let me get into FileAudit Plus. So FileAudit Plus is a tool that allows for reporting, obviously monitoring, and alerting of certain behaviors. So if I come in here and look over the last whatever, you'll see that I have noticed some different ransomware. So this is a report of files that have been encrypted, okay? So this is actually telling me that what I'm reviewing has actually had some problems in the past. Now, what I really want to do is I want to set up alerts. Now, what I want is I want my alerts to be able to help me tell me when things are going wrong. Because you have too many files, right? You have too many file servers and folders. How are you going to keep track of this? It's impossible. So what we need is we need a system to look for certain behaviors, okay? And what we want to do is we want to look for files and folders that have these certain file types. So you'll notice here that we have ransomware encrypted files, and these are the known extensions. We can't look at all file extensions because, well, what if someone else is using that? What if it's AutoCAD and it's encrypting AutoCAD files in a certain way? We can't look at everything. We want to take advantage of what we know. So what we're doing here is we are looking at encrypted files with certain capabilities, and we want a threshold, right? You get to pick your threshold. I'm picking 100 files being created, encrypted in 1 minute from any source, okay? Now, the other thing that I can do is I can actually set up things to execute. Now, what you're going to see is I'm executing a PowerShell script, but I'm going to also show you a batch that you can execute. I'm just trying to give you arsenal, all right? So this is our setup, all right? This is what we have in our environment. Once this starts, we need to be able to see things that are occurring, okay, in real time. So I'm going to come over here, and I am going to launch an attack, okay? So here's the attack that I'm going to launch. I'm going to start to encrypt files, okay? Boom, someone clicks on something they shouldn't have clicked on, all right? Now, what we see here is I don't have email set up here, but you would now be getting an email because now you have something that's occurring, right? And you now see that this is going to trigger that. You'll see right here, this is triggering this. If I had email set up through my alert, which I could have, I'm going to be getting emails. I also have set up, notice this right here, this is the PowerShell shut down that machine. So I could actually shut down the machine that's actually being encrypted. The whole idea is that I want to stop this encryption. Right, I'm going to stop the encryption, okay? Now, what I did inside of the tool, oops, sorry, wrong button, is let me get rid of all of these because this is actually the trigger shutdown, right? So what I did in my environment with my current script, so we come over here to my profile, is I triggered this PowerShell to shut down the machine, okay? And I know that this is with the correct machine because I have it inside of the script, which machine is actually being attacked. Now, what we do is we provide Manage Engine and FileAudit Plus. We also provide you with a shutdown batch file. Now, let me show you what this looks like. So this is actually taking information from the log and passing it into the shutdown. Now, if you want to see this in real time, this particular batch, what you can do is you can come out here to, again, Manage Engine, go to the products, go to FileAudit Plus, and here you can deal with ransomware, and we have a video out here that you can actually look at with regard to ransomware. So if you come over here to ransomware resources, this is actually what this would look like, okay? So this is using that batch file, okay? So all of this setup is the same, right? It goes through, it starts, and then right here, it shuts down that machine. So that's what it would look like, and you can view that as much as you want when you're dealing with that batch file. What we feel from a standpoint of ransomware is you need to be notified immediately, we need real time, and you need to be able to take actions. So I just showed you two different ways that you can take actions with regard to once things are triggered, okay? I'm using PowerShell in my example live, and then the video uses that batch file, and that batch file actually comes with FileAudit Plus, all right? Now, once you've been attacked, this is a big one. Once you've been attacked, what do? Well, you have to go do some cleanup, okay? You need to clean up the attacked computer. Microsoft has a safety scanner that you can run. Actually, you should run it before you're attacked, but a safety scanner, which actually is in safe mode, so that you can scan your machine. Then Windows Defender helps you patch your machine. I don't care what you use for patching. We have a patching tool. Use a patching tool. I'm going to suggest you patch now before you're attacked. But again, these are just some different things that you can utilize before you get that machine back online, okay? Update those patches. Update your virus protection. Virus protection knows about the current ransomware, all right? And then if you need to, restore the PC or reinstall. This is kind of, we go back to that whole segregation, isolation. Try to keep important things in certain places so that if you have to wipe out the machine and rebuild it, it's not going to be that difficult for you to do that. You know, some of you might even have VMware installs for your file servers, right? One of the things that we have that we're working on right now is really robust VMware backups for your file servers. We're also going to be doing a backup of files through Recovery Manager Plus. What we're trying to do is look at all possible avenues for this. Now, I just noticed that one of the questions was, gosh, shutting down a machine is pretty important. Can't we just shut down a user account? Well, the problem is if we just disable a user, the user's already encrypting the information. Disabling a user isn't going to stop that encryption because disabling a user is for authentication. The user is already authenticated. They already have their token. So what we can do, I'm going to give you examples, right? And again, you can do this through any type of executable. You can shut down the NIC, the network card. You could shut down a service. You could shut down many services. You could basically go in and shut down the machine. Beyond that, of course, a database would be a service, right? Beyond that, what are you going to do? You can't take a user out of a group. It's too late. You can't disable a user. It's too late. So we need to take actions that are going to give us immediate results. The reality of ransomware, which is why it's so scary, is once it's already started, there's not much you can do. you're not going to pay in Bitcoin to these people because you're never going to get stuff back. So you're going to have to take an approach that gives you the best result. And I don't want to be a naysayer, but as far as I know and everything that I know, you can't stop ransomware. And once it's started, you can't really do much, okay? And if that's the case, then why are we still being attacked? So if we go back to our list, educate users, patch machines, use least privilege, try to reduce the attack surface, that's our best bet. Because there's no way to stop it, and there's no way to stop it once it's started, okay? We can shut down a machine, but that machine is still infected with that ransomware, and that data is still encrypted. I don't know of anyone to this day which has actually paid and got things decrypted, okay? So what we need to do is we need to look at different ways to do this, all right? Now, in the end, what is the only way to recover from ransomware? There's only one: restore from backup. So you need to back up. Please get a good backup solution. If you do happen to have VMware virtual machines for your file servers, look at our Recovery Manager Plus. It's a great new solution. Okay, we're going to be adding in files soon. A lot of that is because of ransomware. So we need to look at different things. We need to look at different solutions. All right. So with regard to ransomware, I want you to be aware of what's going on, what the extensions are. I went over the basics. How can you basically try to reduce ransomware today? Patch, secure, least privilege, back up your files, get prepared. Microsoft has a term for this. It's called assume breach. Assume breach. Go look it up. Microsoft uses it all the time. Next week, you're going to hear that over and over again at Microsoft Ignite. Microsoft looks at it, you're already breached. So if you're already breached, what's the best thing to do? Back up your files, okay? Now, from here, where do you go? I suggest you download FileAudit Plus and play with it. FileAudit Plus is directly off of our main landing page, manageengine.com, fully functional for 30 days. Go test it. See for yourself how easy it is to set these things up. See for yourself how easy it is to set up alerts. FileAudit Plus is a stripped down SIM, right? If you're trying to use a robust SIM, sometimes it gets too complex. We try to strip it away to make it easier so you can attack ransomware before you're attacked by ransomware. Get these things in place. If you do have any questions after this, that's my email address. Please email me. You also have the events team. Anyone else at AD Solutions, please email us. We are more than happy to try to help you get prepared for this. We're more than happy to try to help you with all of your Windows particular problems around Active Directory. With that, I want to thank all of you for your time. I want to thank all of my team members for supporting me and answering questions. I know there were quite a few questions that came through. I don't see any outstanding questions right now. So I want to thank you guys for answering questions, and I want to thank you guys for asking the questions. It's the way we all learn, okay? With that, I'm done for the day. I'm done with the webinar, and until you see me live, either Ignite or a user conference, maybe you're going to come to one of our user conferences in 2018, maybe a conference that we go to, InfoSec World, next year, Ignite. I just want to thank you guys for your time. Hopefully this was enlightening to you and educational for you. Thank you for your questions. And until I see you next time, this is Derek Melber and the rest of the AD Solutions team. Thank you very much.